Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going on a journey through world history.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
We're going to be tracing the paths of civilizations, from their ancient beginnings
Okay.
all the way to the rise of the West, and
Yeah.
especially for all you UPSC aspirants out there,
Right.
especially those with international relations as your focus,
Yeah.
this deep dive is going to be like pure gold.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to help you guys decode international relations.
Yeah. To understand the complex world we live in today, you need to, know how we got here.
Yeah.
It's like history is almost a secret decoder ring for international relations.
Right.
Huge help for your UPSC exam.
So let's just start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Mesopotamia,
Right.
often called the cradle of civilization.
Sure.
And for good reason. So
Yeah, sure.
what made this place so special?
Well, imagine the fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers
Okay.
in what is now modern-day Iraq. This is where we see some of the earliest complex societies emerge. The Sumerians, with their incredible invention of writing, the Babylonians with their famous Code of Hammurabi, one of the first written law codes,
Wow.
and the Assyrians known for their military prowess.
Wow, the invention of writing.
Yeah.
That must have been a complete game changer.
Absolutely. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Without writing, how would we pass down knowledge, stories, or even laws?
Right.
It's like the foundation
Yeah.
for so much of what we just take for granted today.
Right. It's amazing to think about
Yeah.
how those early innovations still impact us today.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got Mesopotamia.
Yep.
What about ancient Egypt? I've always been fascinated by those pyramids and hieroglyphs.
Egypt is another fascinating case study in the ancient world.
Yeah.
Their civilization lasted for over 3,000 years. That's longer than many countries exist today.
Really?
They developed their own system of writing, monumental architecture, and complex religious beliefs.
3,000 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's a long time.
What allowed them to thrive for so long?
Well, I think the Nile River played a huge role.
Okay.
Its annual floods provided fertile soil for agriculture, which supported a large and stable population.
Oh, okay.
Plus, their geographic location, surrounded by deserts, offered natural protection from invaders.
Oh, so geography really played to their advantage.
It did.
Yeah, it makes you realize how much environment shapes the course of history.
It really does.
Okay, so we've explored these ancient powerhouses
Yeah.
in Mesopotamia and Egypt.
Right.
What comes next in our historical journey?
Let's move on to classical antiquity, a period dominated by ancient Greece and Rome.
Okay.
These civilizations had a profound impact on Western thought and culture,
Right.
and their legacies are still felt today.
Yeah.
Think about democracy, philosophy, art, and architecture.
Yeah.
Many of these concepts have roots in ancient Greece.
Right. When I think of ancient Greece, I picture like those iconic white marble buildings
Well, yeah.
and philosophers debating in the marketplace.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about Rome?
Well, Rome.
They went from a small city-state to this massive empire.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Rome's story is one of remarkable expansion and ambition.
Yeah.
Their republic, which emphasized citizen participation, eventually transformed into a vast empire spanning across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. But this transition
Yeah.
wasn't without its challenges.
Oh.
What kind of challenges?
Yeah, what kind of challenges?
Well, as the Roman Republic grew, it faced increasing internal pressures: economic inequality, political corruption, and social unrest.
Oh, okay.
These factors, combined with the enormous costs of maintaining a sprawling empire, eventually led to a period of crisis and decline for Rome.
So their very success in building an empire ultimately contributed to its downfall.
It seems that way.
That's kind of a cautionary tale.
Yeah, it definitely raises some interesting questions about the sustainability of empires and the challenges of managing vast and diverse territories. These are themes that echo throughout history and still resonate in today's world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what happened after the decline of Rome? Was that the end of civilization as they knew it?
Not at all.
Okay.
As the Roman Empire weakened, new forces emerged on the scene.
Okay.
We see the rise of nomadic peoples like the Huns and the Goths, who challenged Roman authority and contributed to the fragmentation of the empire. This period is often referred to as the Dark Ages,
Okay.
but it was also a time of cultural exchange and transformation.
The Dark Ages. Sounds a bit ominous.
It does, yeah.
Were there any bright spots during this time?
Well, while Europe was experiencing upheaval,
Yeah.
other parts of the world were flourishing.
Okay.
The Islamic Golden Age, for example, saw incredible advancements in science, mathematics, and medicine.
It's fascinating.
It is.
How different parts of the world were experiencing such different trajectories at the same time.
It's true.
It really challenges the idea of a single linear narrative of history, doesn't it?
Absolutely. World history is full of these parallel stories, each with its own complexities and nuances.
Yeah.
And speaking of complexities, let's talk about the Mongols.
The Mongols.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't they like the ultimate warrior nomads?
They were.
Sweeping across Asia and Europe on horseback?
They were indeed a formidable force.
Okay.
In the 13th century, under the leadership of Genghis Khan, the Mongols created one of the largest empires in history,
Wow.
stretching from East Asia all the way to Eastern Europe.
That's huge.
Imagine the impact of these nomadic warriors bursting onto the scene,
Wow.
conquering settled civilizations and leaving a lasting mark on the world.
Wow, that's a story I want to hear more about.
It is a great story.
Yeah, but first I'm curious,
Yeah.
how did the Mongols manage to create such a vast empire?
Well, they were incredibly skilled horsemen and archers,
Right.
and their military tactics were ruthless and effective.
Okay.
But their success wasn't just about brute force.
Right.
They were also adept at diplomacy, incorporating conquered peoples into their ranks and utilizing their skills and knowledge.
Oh, okay.
And perhaps surprisingly,
Yeah.
they were relatively tolerant of different religions and cultures within their empire.
That's interesting.
It is.
So it sounds like there was more to their success than just military might.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful empires rely on a combination of factors:
Okay.
military strength,
Yeah.
strategic alliances,
Right.
and even cultural adaptability.
Gotcha.
The Mongol Empire is a fascinating case study in how empires rise and fall,
Yeah.
leaving a complex and often controversial legacy.
This is all incredibly fascinating.
It is.
And I can already see how understanding these historical shifts could be so helpful for analyzing modern international relations.
Absolutely. The echoes of these ancient civilizations and empires are still felt today,
Yeah.
shaping our understanding of global power dynamics, cultural exchange, and the very nature of civilization itself.
So are we ready to move on to the next chapter of this grand historical saga?
Let's do it. And this next chapter marks a major turning point in world history: the rise of the West.
Okay.
Buckle up,
Okay.
because things are about to get really interesting.
Right. The rise of the West.
Yeah.
This feels like a pivotal moment in history, the kind of thing that really shapes the world as we know it.
For sure.
So what were the key factors that led to Europe's ascent to global dominance?
Well, around the 15th century,
Okay.
several things started happening in Europe that set the stage for their rise.
Okay.
First, you have the Age of Exploration, where European powers started venturing out across the oceans,
Right.
discovering new lands,
Yeah.
establishing trade routes.
Okay.
This led to the accumulation of wealth and resources,
Yeah.
fueling further expansion.
So exploration and trade really kickstarted this whole process.
They did, yeah.
What else was going on in Europe at the time?
Another crucial factor was the emergence of powerful nation-states.
Okay.
Countries like England, France, and Spain were consolidating their power.
Right. Building strong central governments
Yeah.
and developing their own national identities.
Okay.
This set the stage for intense competition and rivalry among these nations,
Yeah.
both in Europe and on the global stage.
I can see how that kind of competition could be a driving force for innovation and expansion.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But weren't there other powerful empires around the world at this time?
absolutely. The Ottoman Empire, for example, was a major force in the Middle East and North Africa.
Right.
The Ming Dynasty in China was experiencing a golden age of cultural and economic prosperity.
Okay.
But Europe had a few unique advantages that
Yeah.
allowed them to eventually surpass these other powers.
What kind of advantages are we talking about?
One key advantage was technological innovation.
Okay.
Europeans were developing new shipbuilding techniques, navigational tools, and weaponry,
Right.
which gave them an edge in exploration and conquest.
Right.
Think about the impact of cannons on naval warfare.
Right. Technology can definitely be a game changer. Oh, it was.
And of course, we can't forget about colonialism.
We can't.
Europe's expansion wasn't exactly a peaceful process.
That's true.
Yeah.
As European powers ventured out across the globe,
Yeah.
they established colonies in the Americas, Africa, and Asia,
Right.
exploiting resources and labor to further enrich themselves.
Yeah.
This period of colonialism had a profound and often devastating impact on the colonized regions,
Right.
leaving a legacy of exploitation, inequality, and conflict that continues to this day.
It's a dark side of history.
It is.
That's important to acknowledge.
Yeah.
So we've got exploration, The rise of nation-states, technological advancements, and colonialism,
Right.
all contributing to Europe's rise to power.
Yeah.
But how did this impact the rest of the world?
Well, as Europe gained dominance,
Yeah.
it fundamentally reshaped the global landscape.
Okay.
We see the emergence of new trade networks,
Right.
the spread of European ideas and culture,
Okay.
and unfortunately, the imposition of European political and economic systems on other parts of the world.
So it wasn't just about Europe's rise, but also about the ways in which they shaped
Right.
and often controlled
Yeah,
the destinies of other nations.
that's true.
That's a pretty powerful legacy.
It is, and it's something that we still grapple with today
Right.
as we try to understand the complexities of international relations
Yeah.
and address the lasting impacts of colonialism.
This is giving me a lot to think about,
I bet.
especially in the context of my UPSC preparation.
Yeah.
I can see how understanding these historical patterns and power dynamics is crucial
It is.
for analyzing contemporary global issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
History provides us with a framework for understanding how we got to where we are today.
Right.
And it's particularly relevant for aspiring diplomats and policymakers
Okay.
who need to navigate a world shaped by these historical forces.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have
from ancient civilizations to the rise of the West.
a lot of ground.
But I'm curious, what happened next? Did Europe just continue to dominate the world unchallenged?
Not quite.
Okay.
As we move into the 19th and early 20th centuries,
Yeah.
we see a period of intense globalization,
Okay.
but also growing tensions and rivalries among European powers.
Mhm.
This sets the stage for a series of events that will dramatically reshape the world order.
Okay.
World War I.
World War I, that feels like a turning point,
It
a moment where everything changes.
was. It was indeed a pivotal moment.
Okay.
The war shattered the old empires,
Whoa.
led to the rise of new ideologies,
Right.
and sowed the seeds for future conflicts.
Right.
It's a period that deserves its own deep dive,
Okay.
full of fascinating stories, complex characters, and enduring lessons.
Okay, I'm definitely adding World War I to my list of historical deep dives.
It is
But
happening.
before we get there,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Globalization.
Right.
What did that look like in the late 19th and early 20th centuries?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
You had unprecedented levels of economic integration with goods, capital, and people flowing across borders at an incredible rate.
Wow.
Technological advancements like the telegraph and the steamship were shrinking distances and connecting the world in ways never seen before.
Wow.
And there was a sense of optimism,
Okay.
a belief that progress was inevitable,
Right.
and that the world was becoming more interconnected and interdependent.
It sounds almost like the world we live in today.
It does.
With global trade,
Yeah.
instant communication,
Yeah.
and a constant flow of information.
It's true.
Yeah.
There are definitely some striking parallels.
And just like today,
Yeah.
that period of globalization had its downsides.
It did.
It led to increased competition for resources,
Sure.
spread of diseases,
Mm-hmm.
and a widening gap between rich and poor.
Right.
And as we'll see, those underlying tensions eventually contributed to the outbreak of World War I.
They did.
So globalization isn't always a smooth or peaceful process.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder that even in a seemingly interconnected world,
Yeah.
conflicts and rivalries can still emerge,
Uh-huh.
sometimes with devastating consequences.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another fascinating period in history,
Okay.
the Belle Époque. It was a time of great cultural and technological advancement,
Yep.
particularly in Europe.
Yeah.
You had incredible innovations in art, music, literature, and science.
Wow.
Think about the Impressionist painters,
Yeah.
the birth of cinema,
Okay.
and the groundbreaking discoveries in physics and medicine.
It sounds like a period of great creativity and progress.
It was.
But didn't you say earlier that this era of globalization also had its dark side?
That's right.
Okay.
While the Belle Époque was a time of great prosperity and cultural flourishing for some,
Yeah.
it was also a time of deep social and economic inequalities.
Hmm.
Colonial exploitation continued,
Right.
and tensions between European powers were simmering beneath the surface.
Mm.
And despite the advancements in science and technology,
Mm.
the world was still largely unprepared for the horrors that were about to unfold with the outbreak of World War I.
So it's a complex picture,
It is,
full of contradictions.
for sure.
On the one hand, you have this flourishing of art, culture, and innovation.
Right.
And on the other hand, you have these deep-seated inequalities and simmering tensions
Mm-hmm.
that ultimately lead to global conflict.
They do.
It makes you wonder if there are any parallels to our own time.
That's a great question,
Yeah.
and one that I hope our listeners will ponder.
Yeah.
Are we living through our own version of the Belle Époque? A time of technological advancement and global interconnectedness,
Yeah.
but also one marked by social and political divisions.
Right.
Could history offer any lessons for navigating our own complex world?
Those are definitely some thought-provoking questions to consider.
They are.
And for our UPSC aspirants, it's a great example of how understanding historical patterns and events can help us analyze contemporary issues.
It is.
And perhaps even anticipate future challenges.
Precisely.
Yeah.
History isn't just about memorizing dates and names.
Right.
It's about developing critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
recognizing patterns,
Right.
and drawing connections between the past and the present.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kinds of skills that will serve you well,
Okay.
not just in the UPSC exam,
Yeah.
but throughout your careers and lives.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
It has been.
And I feel like I'm starting to see the world through a whole new lens.
I think so.
I'm eager to hear more about World War I and how it reshaped the global landscape.
I bet.
But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
It's been a whirlwind tour through history,
Yeah.
but hopefully it's giving our listeners a better understanding of the long and complex journey that has led us to where we are today.
All right, so we've journeyed from the ancient cradles of civilization all the way to the eve of World War I.
It's been a long journey.
It's been an incredible journey, packed with insights.
It has.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I'd love to get some practical advice
Okay.
for our UPSC aspirants out there.
Sure.
How can they actually apply
Right.
this historical knowledge to their exam preparation?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
the UPSC exam isn't about simply regurgitating facts.
Right.
It's about demonstrating critical thinking,
Okay.
analyzing complex situations,
Yeah.
and connecting the dots between past and present. So
Right.
how can you do that?
I'm all ears.
First, let's talk about essays.
Okay.
Let's say you're given an essay topic like the impact of colonialism on modern international relations.
Okay.
Don't just list historical events.
Right.
Instead, delve into the lasting consequences of colonialism, economic exploitation, political instability, cultural clashes,
Right.
and connect those to current global issues. Show the examiners
Yeah.
that you understand how the past continues to shape the present.
So it's about using historical knowledge
Yeah,
to build a compelling argument and demonstrate a deeper understanding of contemporary issues.
exactly.
Okay.
And don't forget about the power of examples.
Okay.
Let's say you're asked to analyze the rise of China as a global power.
Right.
You could draw parallels to the rise of the West, examining the factors that contributed to their dominance.
Okay.
Economic expansion, technological innovation, military strength,
All right.
and analyze
Yeah.
whether those historical patterns apply to China's trajectory.
So using historical examples as a framework for understanding current events.
Precisely.
Gotcha.
And another powerful tool
Yeah.
is comparative analysis.
Okay.
Let's say you're comparing the foreign policies of India and China.
Okay.
A deep understanding of their historical experiences,
Yeah.
their colonial pasts,
Right.
their post-independence trajectories,
Yeah.
provides invaluable context for a nuanced and well-informed answer.
This is all starting to click for me.
Good.
It's about weaving historical narratives into your answers, demonstrating that you see the big picture and understand the deep-rooted factors influencing global events.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of storytelling.
Right.
History is full of fascinating narratives, compelling characters, and pivotal moments.
Right.
Using these elements can make your arguments more persuasive and memorable.
Gotcha.
For example, when discussing the Mongols,
Okay.
you could talk about the audacity of Genghis Khan's leadership or the impact of their cavalry tactics on warfare.
It was not just about showcasing your knowledge,
No?
but also your ability to communicate effectively
Yeah,
and engage the examiners with compelling historical narrative.
exactly.
Okay, great.
Think of it as crafting a tapestry
Hmm.
where each thread represents a historical event or concept, and you're weaving them together to create a rich and insightful analysis of the world we live in.
This has been an incredible journey, and I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power of history.
Good.
Any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they embark on their UPSC adventures?
Embrace the journey. History is a vast and fascinating subject, full of surprises and insights. Allow yourself to be curious, to delve deeper into the periods and themes that spark your interest.
Right.
And remember, the more you learn about the past, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the present and shape the future.
Well said. And to all our listeners out there, a huge thank you for joining us on this deep dive through history.
It's been fun.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
We did.
If you found this episode helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.
Spread the word.
And until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of history.